gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40. It is. Very close. 15, 10.
Right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like this podcast. As always, host Blake, my brother Brooks. Got another win in the books. A little bit delayed. Can't really control that. Maybe that affected the final score for the win, but always good to get a win and talk about the boys with getting a win. So initial thoughts, everything like that. What you thinking?
Man, it's positives and negatives, just like a lot of games. I mean, we definitely didn't tackle as good today. Defensively, which is not very encouraging going into the Michigan game. But I do think that it was a bit of a gritty performance from the team overall. They stood tall in the moments they needed to stand tall to make this game sort of feel how it was supposed to feel. I don't think the score showed it, but I really do think that for a majority of this game, we were bullying them inside. It's just a matter of, making plays when they need to be made. I mean, I talked about this. I sort of sent you a text about this. It's like, tackling and fundamentals are fantastic. I mean, you need them. That's the baseline of what every team needs. But eventually it gets to a point where you got to make plays, because when you play a team that's your equal, I mean, you got to make plays against them because they're going to make plays against you. I mean, I always think about Purdue last year and just some of those throws that Aiden O'Connell was making, that it was like, we were playing pretty good defense, but like there's nothing you could really do about it. And so, that's my biggest concern coming away from this game is like, where are the playmakers? I think AG has proved he's a playmaker. I think that defensively they had a tough game, so it's hard to talk about them in that light this game.
Absolutely.
But so go ahead.
I would go out on a limb, even with a backup quarterback. I would say that this is the best skill position on offense from just a total offense that we've seen all year from skill positions. People will say like Colorado, this Colorado. I still haven't been very impressed with them outside of that first game for TCU, which guess what? They performed, but I haven't seen them really perform that at that level any week since. And I think the maturity in some of the other positions that they just have on offense. I mean, we went over there, so they were averaging almost 300 yards in passing. Going in. Not as many on running, and that held true because the defense still stood stout with running. But I get your criticism for tackling.
We definitely had some more missed tackles today than we had before.
So judging based off of maybe the talent level just in the secondary was a little bit better than we've seen, and then also there is a little bit of looking ahead. You have the number 2 team, and they should still be the number 2.
I hope it's not that. I mean, looking ahead is like such a. I mean, that's coaching right there. That's coaching.
I understand.
Yeah,
you can be the best coach in the world.
Sure,
you can.
I could.
You could. You can. No,
I could not.
No, but you could be the best coach in the world, and like the players they should beat Louisiana Tech,
right?
Walking away, and that going into a game, the teams you should beat. And that's been one of the bugaboos from the entire Frost and Riley really era that you're not beating the teams that you should. So we're still beat the teams that we should. Did
Right.
it look like we should? At times. At
Yeah.
times it did. But yeah. So you have a little bit of looking ahead
Sure.
to do, because you have the number 2 team coming into Lincoln, and you're really looking towards that. I really think a lot of that on defense, not necessarily on offense, but on defense. I think a lot of that had to do with that. Maybe they weren't as focused this week. Even the coaching, like,
I think
I didn't
schematically
hear-
there might be some evidence to back up what you're saying schematically, because I don't know, maybe they were just like looking at more run fits like leading up to this, because I mean that's what they're going to need against Michigan, right? They're going to need lots of different run fits. So the only thought I have on maybe looking ahead is maybe they had been training. I mean, look, our run defense by all accounts has been really good so far this year. So obviously they've trained a lot of run fits and run schemes.
Yeah.
So that's my only thought is like, look, this Louisiana Tech team, Smoke Harris is good. I think we've figured that out.
If he loses the pooch, he's like that. That was the one thing I kind of told you during the game when we were talking. Like, if that dude literally loses a little bit of weight, he's really, really good.
Let me put it this way.
really
Let me
good.
put it this way. He would be our number 1 wide receiver. He would.
Oh, right now, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what's disheartening about this is like week after week we're all like, who's going to break out? You know, all this stuff, and we keep looking for that guy, especially offensively.
Yeah.
That's going to be that reliable weapon. And I'll maintain that I think Fedoni, they still need to find more ways to get him the ball. I think he could end up being that sort of weapon, but you need more than that. You need speed as well in order to counterbalance that sort of weapon that
You do.
Fedoni would present. So, it's just disheartening to play. I mean, it's disheartening to play Colorado, and then you see the athletes they have at the positions we need to have athletes, and it's like, dang, if you took those Colorado athletes and put them on this Nebraska team, we could maybe be a crazy, pretty good team. And then you play Louisiana Tech, and it's like, man, the best playmaker on the field right now is Louisiana Tech guy. And that's just disheartening. I think AG had a really good game. They called back a really long run that he had for a touchdown. That was just a really good run. And it was such a ticky-tacky holding call, I thought. Marcus Washington.
So was the one that they called back on Harburg as well.
Oh, that was the Marcus Washington one, right? Where they called it on Marcus. Yeah. The AG one, they called it on Alex Bullock, and it was a little bit more holding, but not a downfield wide receiver block hold. You know, like that's different. That's different. That's like that. To me, here's how it works. Interior, hands inside, that won't be called, right? Offensive linemen are taught to hold, but with their hands inside, and that won't be called. Well, with defensive backs and wide receiver blocking, it's like head on. To me, that's how it looks. Head on. If you're blocking them head on, like that's not a hold. Now, if they turn any angle and you're still holding on to them there, then it's not a hold. But head on with you, and you're both hand fighting, it's a different thing than the interior of the line to me. It's like an unspoken, and
No,
it was like such a
especially on the
ticky-tacky
Harburg
call
run.
to me.
Like that
especially
was-
on the Harburg run, yes. Especially on the
that
Harburg
one.
Yeah, that one
That
was
was-
ridiculous because, if anything, Marcus Washington was being held. But
Yeah, because he started going like this, and the other guy was holding him. And then and that is when they threw the flag. I was like, what?
Yeah. And that would have been too long. Wasn't that one going to be a touchdown too, or was it just a long run?
The Harburg one?
Yeah, it was going to be a touchdown, right?
No, that was a touchdown. He went to the end zone.
Yeah.
Everyone was celebrating.
Well, he had one that
like,
was a touchdown. He had one that ended up being a touchdown. Didn't he?
Not that one.
Yeah.
No, he
So
did
that's
have one of those.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If that other one didn't get called back, that's what I'm saying. Heinrich Harburg, to me, at this point, has proved it to us in the run game. Like you mentioned something on our last podcast. You're like, he's shifty. I don't think he's shifty. I think we both sort of agree on that now. I don't think he's shifty, but he can do enough, and he's a tough runner, and he's fast when he needs to be. He's not the fastest guy out on the field, but like he secures the ball like it's his child, I mean, he sort of.
Yeah.
I made a comment. He sort of looks like a fullback when he breaks a big run because of the way he holds the ball. Like fullbacks are always ball security heavy, and sometimes they got two hands on the ball. They're holding it high and tight. I like that. I'm not making fun of it.
Yeah, no. when he's in stride, his gait does look a little awkward. I will say that.
He's got that
running
puppy
by
athleticism.
Yeah, but he's running by people, so who cares?
Yes. He's got a little bit of that puppy athleticism in him to the point where, I mean, look, he's young. I'm suspicious that he's got a little bit more of a growth spurt still left in him just based on how big his feet are compared to his body and all the stuff. It's like, man, this dude could be developed even more, I think. And by his senior year, I think he could be even bigger, stronger, faster, and better. So
Younger.
And younger, yeah. No, but you know what I mean. He does. I mean, he has athleticism for sure, and he has toughness for sure, and he's comfortable out there. But there is an element of that, like he's a little bit of a puppy still, too big for his feet, or his feet are too big for his body right now. You know, stuff like that.
I hear that. Yeah. But I mean, you look at the stats, and I'll go ahead and share these for the people watching live or just watching after the fact, because nobody's watching live like that now. And I do want to take this opportunity because we didn't say this at the top. If you're listening, we also do these on YouTube. Just search Cornhusker Corner. Like and subscribe to the channel.
Like the video and subscribe to the channel. But yes.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And then also vice versa. If you're somebody that watches us on YouTube, we do have an audio version anywhere podcasts are handled. So look at here, just a couple stats that we have. Harburg 8 in the passing game, 8 for 17. That's actually not too bad for how many times we passed. 107 and a touchdown. Probably could have been better. There were a couple drops, and he might have had an interception here or there. But look at the none.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
That's all that the stats read, right?
Right.
Then you look at his carry. 19 carries, 157 yards. Again, like he had 98 yards last week, and now he has 157 with one touchdown. He had one touchdown. He had a couple touchdowns, but one of them was a snake. So, but one really earned touchdown. Probably should have been 2. That was at least 60 yards. So he could have had an over 200-yard game here.
No doubt about it. He had a day in the run game. I mean, that's why the banner says what it says, because I think at this point, like, Heinrich Harburg is a proven commodity as a running quarterback, no doubt about it. And we can harp on that till the cows come home. But what do you think of what you saw in the passing game today with Heinrich? I mean, there was obviously some inconsistency going on there. Couldn't really get it going, especially the downfield passing game. Had a couple of short and crossing routes that worked out, but the downfield passing game just wasn't even there for us for the most part, if at all. If at all, if I can think about any deep pass that actually was completed.
Here's what I'll say about this: the offensive line probably had their worst game they've had all year today, and it was not even close. There were times when they were right in the quarterback's. It doesn't matter who's in there; they're not going to make a play. And it's really tough to gauge that when you have those plays early, when you turn around and there's people already in your face. Because as I mentioned before, like you get antsy after somebody's gotten pressure on you before. When you start to not trust your line. Yeah. And it's not necessarily week after week after week unless it becomes a pattern.
I mean, the first play of the game was a sack, wasn't it? The first play. Wasn't it a sack? The first play of the game for Nebraska offensively? I'm pretty sure the first play of the game was a sack for Nebraska offensively. I'm pretty sure. It was either the first play of the game or it was the first third and long of the game, but I'm pretty sure it was the first play of the game.
You're right. I think it was the first
So
play.
the game did not start off well. There was a number of moments throughout this game where it felt like the momentum could turn, and there was an element for a little bit of this game where it felt like Satterfield was getting a little desperate to me with his play calling. And I don't want to say completely desperate, but he was getting, I mean, we talked about it. The first 3 or 4 drives, he got very pass heavy, very, very pass happy.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think the problem is with the passing game? Let's get to that.
I don't think that he was trying to get desperate. I think he was trying to establish the pass game so that he could establish the run, which usually that's opposite. But I think, okay, so here's where my hot take comes in with Harburg. After the rain delay, 8 minutes left in the game, Louisiana Tech drives down the field and scores. So it was what, 28-7, and it went to 14-28.
Mm-hmm.
So in normal circumstances, you trot your first string quarterback out there, run down the play, and keep going. I think that they've seen enough from Harburg from protecting the ball, even on broken plays. We saw him pick up a fumble from a bad snap, and we've seen him make good decisions. I honestly think that he might have won the starting job, and they didn't want to get him hurt.
Yeah, I mean, was that your big theory?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not trying to demean you, but like, yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree.
But also, on the other end, if you're gonna play devil's advocate, with the one snap Sims got in there, yeah, he I don't know who screwed up that play. I don't know who screwed up. It looked like he did.
Everyone else went the other way, so I think he did.
Okay, again, devil's advocate. But then also he's hobbling off the field. So he's definitely not 100%.
Right.
So going into Michigan, and I just think that he's probably going to start next week. I think that Harburg's probably going to start next week. But what was your question? I went into my hypothesis.
I was just I think I agree with you. I just think that's obvious at this point, to be honest. Yeah. I made that remark because I was excited for what theory you had or what your big bombshell.
No, I didn't say it was a bombshell.
Yeah, you did. I guess you didn't. I guess I was just looking forward to it for no reason because I thought you were going to say they're gearing up to have a 2-quarterback system with Chuba and Heinrich. I thought that's what you were going to say. And I was like, what? That's a weird theory coming out of Blake. But
no, I'm not that dumb.
I will say Chuba, when he got in the game, like we talked about, I thought he had sort of a push the ball throwing motion last year. And I think it's gotten slightly better this year. I think he definitely felt confident in there.
He definitely threw a spiral this season.
He threw a spiral. It was a pretty ball.
Yeah. But
back to Heinrich.
But back to Heinrich. Yeah. There is a piece on the offensive line that really has to get hammered down. The left tackle position is one of the most important positions on the offensive line outside of center, because the center directs the rest of the offensive line. They make the reads, calls, whatever. The left tackle position has not been played very well. And I don't think Corcoran is a left tackle. And I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's a left tackle. I think he's a guard.
I mean, I think that it's interesting because he's okay whenever they're just playing straight 4-3 and he knows who he's going to block pre-snap, and it ends up being straight 2-gap technique from the D-line, and it's nothing of a surprise. He's okay in those situations. But any stunt, any blitz, any different stuff at any point, like it's a a 50% possibility that Turner Corcoran will just completely whiff on the play. And I don't know,
to the point.
I haven't noticed Bryce Benhart on the other side this year as much, but I haven't noticed.
Because I the only reason I've noticed Corcoran is because most of the time the blown up plays from the run, anytime there's pressure in the backfield, a missed block here and there, it's coming off the left guard. It's not usually coming off the middle. The first one, the sack, I do remember that. The running back decided to chip out instead of chipping in because the other people went out. I have a theory that's on the running back. Just from
I thought so
the bodies and everything.
Yeah,
but you look at the left tackle position. there's a lot coming from there, and I've noticed that a lot. It's just from watching, and I haven't even done like film study,
Right.
because that I could, but like I don't.
And on that particular play you're talking about, it was Emmett Johnson in there at running back too. So I mean, it could have very likely been him because it was a young guy and in there. You know, it's hard because you don't know exactly what they're coached to do and what play they're running. But in that situation, seemingly it should have been Emmett getting that guy off the edge, but who knows?
Because usually coming up the middle, that's the running back. You go middle out.
That's what it normally is. I would assume it depends on the fronts and the looks, though, because if they
Ben
have two
Scott
guys
got
on the
blown up a couple times this game that I haven't seen in a while, and good on Louisiana Tech. Really, they brought some good stunts when they needed to, and they played. They schemed their way into the game where they had no business being in, because I told you this too, like even the defensive line versus their offensive line, it looked like the Little Giants versus the New York Giants. It was,
but we couldn't get pressure on them.
We couldn't.
You know, it was, but really, I think it was the biggest factor that why we couldn't get pressure on them was their quarterback just had a quick release. He was getting the ball out relatively quickly on a consistent basis throughout the game. Was that their backup quarterback?
Yep.
Oh man. Anyway, he was getting the ball out quick for most of the game, and when he wasn't, he was a pretty efficient. He used his rollouts and his scrambling ability in the pocket and stuff pretty efficiently. So I think he's pretty good. But also, any success they had was just in the throw game, like sort of intermediate throw game. And then, there was just a couple plays here and there where it was like, man, we missed that tackle. And I hadn't seen that yet this year. So, this definitely was
poor tackling,
not as encouraging.
And no, not as encouraging. But guess what? We've lost to a Big Ten opponent in Minnesota and Colorado, who knows how good they are after today. But apart from that, those two losses, we tackled well in all three of our previous games, all three. And as I mentioned up top, I think skill position and what have you. I think, honestly, Louisiana Tech has better skill positions. Just if you were to rank them based on their entire portfolio through Colorado's entire portfolio, I think they have a better one than Colorado. I do.
Positions?
Proven over the entire career.
Hey,
I do.
Preach, brother. I don't agree with you at all, but
I know.
You can go
I know
ahead
you
and
don't.
Preach.
I know you don't. But that's
a definite hot take.
Yeah, I know.
It's a definite hot
Smokey
take.
Robinson can run, man.
Smokey Robinson. I mean,
Poochie the Bear can run.
I mean, I don't know. You put Smoke Robinson on Colorado, and he's in the mix, but like he's not their number one guy. I don't think so. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They weren't an unskilled team. Let's put it that way. They were not an unskilled team. To hammer your point forward, they weren't an unskilled team, except for in the trenches where it showed. Except for in the sacks, which was weird. The only factor I can think of besides just the scheme and them getting the ball out quicker was Cam Linhart was hurt for the game, so we also were down a pass rusher.
Yeah.
And he had been pretty productive for us. And the thing about Cam is he got 2.5 sacks or something like that so far in the year. But he also had a lot of QB pressures. If you watch the games, he was back there a lot. So I think that's a bigger loss than people assume just because he's a freshman.
Plus the rotation.
Yeah, it helps in the rotation, getting fresh legs out there 100%. So yeah, we just didn't see much from the pass rush element of our defense today and the tackling element of our defense. Besides that, they held them to 14 points. The first drive in the game where they scored was where I saw loafs, where I saw people just like, missing tackles and sort of maybe even effort issues here and there, which is the first time I've seen that all year. And then when they came out after the weather delay, They got one or two good plays right off the bat, got some momentum right off the bat, had us on our heels, and we never really recovered from that. So it's a hard situation, but I even told you, it's like, man, in that situation, what a great team does is they come out and they set the tone to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's what they needed to do. And that's a coaching thing. But again, it's a new coach, new team.
Also, it is much more difficult to play defense after coming out of that lag than it is offense.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
If you look at like statistics just based off of weather delays, almost always, at least from the games I've watched, I have no data to back this up, but from the games I've watched that have come off of weather delays, the offense almost always comes out and gets points. Almost always. Because it's harder. And then the crowd isn't into it. Like, you can look at Memorial Stadium. It was almost empty. It looked like we were at
that makes sense. I bet the data backs that up. Backs that up. That makes total sense to me. But yeah. So, I mean, I guess we can sort of look at the overall. Let's start with positives. How about that? Let's start with positives. And why don't you go first? Go ahead and give me a couple positives, and I'll springboard off of it.
Positives. I will say Anthony Grant. We said at the beginning of the season that the running back position was our most depth. That had the most depth. That had the most talent. And it was the one we were least worried about. Now, did we expect two of them to go down for the year? No. And I still think that we're still in good hands. I saw some really good things out of him today. He should have had a really long touchdown run that got called back. We already mentioned that. But he was doing really well at trying to find room where there was none and being decisive when there wasn't a hole.
Absolutely.
And that's been my biggest criticism on him, especially that he tries to dance and make too much instead of just getting a couple of yards. And today I saw him just get those couple of yards instead of trying to dance it out and losing a couple.
Right.
And also, I think you pointed out that it really helps when you are getting pushed off the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I pointed it out before the game. Yeah, I pointed it out before the game. It's like Anthony Grant gets a little bit of a bad rap from last year just because he was getting hit in the backfield on almost every carry he got. And there weren't a whole lot of carries he was getting because even at best, Whip's offense was 55-45 pass at best. And so it was not orientated to the run. We weren't getting pushed off the ball last year. He was getting hit in the backfield a lot, and he still had 980 yards. So I was interested just to see what it would look like in a run-orientated offense that had shown they can get push. And I think we got a glimpse of that today. And I think AG is – I don't want to say he's an elite Big Ten back because I don't think we're there yet with him, but he's a very, very skilled number one back in the Big Ten. He stacks up, and behind a good offensive line, he can do some serious work on just about any team if they're getting push. So, yeah.
So, no, he was definitely a positive.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll say another one, even though he didn't have as good of a game as he did last week, but Harburg definitely did show poise, and he showed even when a play breaks down, it's not going to be catastrophic.
Right.
That is a big deal. That's a big, big, big deal. That you have a quarterback back there when a snap gets fumbled or something goes wrong, you turn the wrong way. That happened a lot today, which is going to be one of my negatives. But he showed that it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be a negative. Almost all those things, the fumbled snap went for a yard.
Yep.
The turn the wrong way went for half a yard. Like, it wasn't a negative play.
Right.
So I think those really just thinking, and unfortunately I can't say anything on defense because
so it can. So that's one of my positives. Ironically, we'll talk about the negatives of the defense, but I do think that you got to look at it in this light. I think if this Louisiana Tech team comes in the same week instead of Georgia Southern last year, it's a similar game. I really do think that. I think that they could have thrown for 600 yards on our defense at this stage last year. So I think one positive you sort of have to point out is the defensive back group and their coverage for the day. They had a couple of busted coverages here and there, but it was never like a big play busted coverage where, they're getting, a 90-yard touchdown run because someone missed a tackle. So I complained about the missed tackles, but at the end of the day, you have to look at they missed the tackle and the team usually was there to back it up when they did miss the tackle. So that is a positive when it comes to defense. My one other positive, sorry, go ahead. You could say something on that.
No, and I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the stats, and we only gave up 46 rushing yards.
100%.
And in the Big Ten, the things that you're trying to look for success in the Big Ten is how do you defend the run, right? 46 rushing yards.
Yeah,
and that was right at our average that we've been giving up. So
not against a real rushing offense, I will say. I mean,
no.
What were the rushing average totals before this game? We talked about it, right? It was like 112 yards or something like that. I mean, not a whole lot.
I can look it up.
Yeah. You go ahead and look it up, so I'm not just throwing a random number out there. But yeah, so I think for the most part, rushing yards, we only give up 46, so that doesn't hurt our average in rushing defense. So we're still going to be ranked in the top end of the country for rushing defense. And like I said, the team tackling, the individual tackling wasn't the best today, but I felt the team tackling was really good. I also want to give Quentin Newsom a shout out because he made an unbelievable play where he fought off a block and like made the tackle on his knees, like facing the dude's crotch, just like, I mean, and then another shout out I want to give is to Deshaun Singleton, who had perhaps the best hit of the year so far. It was just a textbook head across the dude's body, fly through the line and pop him. I mean, and just for a TFL 3 or 4 yard loss. So that was another really good play. But yeah, so defensively, there definitely are some positives. It's not an entirely negative performance. If it was last year's defense around this time, we would have given up 40 points to this team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a positive for me. And then another positive for me is on the topic of the fumbles. Here's on the topic of the fumbles. One positive you could pull away from the topic of the fumbles is, okay, now here we go. We fumbled twice in a game, and guess what? We recovered both of them. Both of them. Fumbling is bad. Not recovering it is even worse to me. Because it's like, at the end of the day, like, and that's a thing you can train. That's a thing you can train. Like looking and diving on the ball and being that team that's just ball hawks, looking for the ball at all times. It's an important thing. And I actually wasn't crazy about the fact that, what did they average? Go ahead. What did they average in rushing yards?
I mean, this kind of just shocked me. Louisiana Tech from rushing offense. I just want to double check. Yeah, the rushing offense. They are number 45 in the country, averaging 181 a game.
Wow. Okay. So let me go ahead and scrub whatever I just said about their rushing offense not being real, because it is real. 185 a game, you said?
Michigan is 69 right now.
Yeah.
Averaging 156.
Right. So, and Michigan's played complete trash opponents until Rutgers, really, because Rutgers, I mean, they proved that their defense is pretty decent, at least for Rutgers, definitely. But anyway, yeah, so decent rushing offense, and we held them to 46 yards, so there's another positive. But again, I'm pointing out on the fumbles, yeah, we fumbled twice, but we recovered it twice, and that's an important thing, even just for the psyche.
Absolutely.
It's just like we didn't give the ball away. Yeah, we put it on the ground twice, which is not good, but we didn't give the ball away all day, which is a good thing. And I think we had one pick too, didn't we? Well, one interception.
Right at the end.
Right at the end. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
We were plus on the turnover margins today, despite having 2 fumbles. That's big. You got to overcome things like that as a team. So that's a positive.
Yeah, I would love those defensive things to come when it's not trash time, because a couple of them, against the past 2 weeks, they've come during trash time. When the other team is desperate and trying to make those really bad. I would love for our players to be in that position because they are there. They are there a lot of the time.
I would argue there sort of was no trash time in this game. I mean, we thought that it was a little bit, academic. That's what the announcer said coming out after the delay of the game. And I don't know though. Like we were only up 3 scores on a Louisiana Tech team. They come out and scored immediately, and it ended up being only a 2-score game. So to me, it's like, was there even garbage time in that game? Arguably, if we played 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter right now, our starters would still be out there. So is it garbage time? Not really. So yeah, that's my thought on the turnover margin. I do think that is a positive. You need to overcome things like that as a team, especially a team that's had turnover issues. So being positive on the turnover margin for a game is a positive, no doubt about it.
Sure. I just want it to matter more.
Agreed.
I want it to matter more,
Agreed.
and I want this defense to be able to score a couple times because because of how they've been playing with the position they've been in. It's just it feels so close, and it feels like a little bit of like tease. I think they're going to get at least a couple this year. You have to think so. Right.
They're on the coverage so good. And man, it totally would have been a takeaway if it happened in the middle of the field, but there was a special teams play. They were returning a punt or a kickoff, and Faley and Sanford had a beautiful punch of the ball. And it was sort of the element of what Rule talked about, like they've played in the rain, like they go out and practice in the rain. Well, when you practice in the rain, especially as a defender, you recognize certain things like, hey, punching the ball out's way easier when everything's wet. So Phelan Sanford, instead of going for the tackle, he just went like yeeted in for the punch and got it. And unfortunately, it went out of bounds. But it was a great play by Phelan, I thought.
Yeah.
So that's positives, right? Are we done with positives?
Yeah, we can be done with positives.
Okay, let's move on to negatives. What are a few negatives that you saw in the game today?
Well, I've already mentioned it extensively, but offensive line, man.
Yeah.
Offensive line definitely had their worst game of the season. And I'll put a caveat out there because not every single offensive lineman is playing terrible. And it's not like in years past where they just don't know what's going on and there's so many blown up plays. And it's not that. It's a couple plays here and there at the worst possible times. And it's missed blocks that shouldn't have been missed blocks. It's positioning. It's player error. I don't even think it's coaching. That reminded me of
we actually had 3 fumbles. That reminded me because there was that one play where they got Heinrich off the edge. That was an offensive line blunder, I believe. They got Heinrich off the edge, hit him hard, and the ball just slipped out of Heinrich's hands. That was a total fumble. I don't remember who it was recovered by, but So I mean, and that one's, I would argue, is the offensive line's fault. I would argue. I mean, got to hold on to the ball if you're Heinrich, but he didn't know they were coming that fast.
Your blindside block.
That guy got to deliver for you on the blind side. He has to.
Yeah. No, he has to.
Especially for a young quarterback, especially.
Yeah. No, so the amount of whiffs, and we have Michigan coming in next week.
Yeah.
You cannot play that way against them. Again, the offensive line is so much bigger than Louisiana Tech's defensive line. Bigger. Maybe not faster because a lot of our dudes, I don't know. I don't see it. But you can't do that against Michigan. You just can't. And I feel really bad if they don't lock up and play their best game of the season because Michigan is the best team we're going to see the rest of the season. It just is.
No doubt about it.
And I don't want because we're both going to that game, right?
Yep.
And so I don't want that game to be over after the first quarter. No. I want it to be a fourth quarter decision game. And I don't know if that can be with the offensive line. And that's a negative right now.
And Michigan looked so beatable today, too.
I know.
Yeah, so negative. So offensive line, okay, we've harped on that enough. Let's talk about another negative that we could say. You could spin it into a positive because we had that fake field goal, I believe it was. But the kicking game, the field goal kicking game in particular. So Tristan Alvano is a freshman kicker for us, and it's obvious he has a big leg. But it's starting to become a thing where we're looking for a little bit more of that consistency in him because I think it was a 38-yarder that was just totally
41.
shanked. 41. Okay, it's similar range, but it was just totally shanked to the right. And he's had a couple of misses this year. I think he's like maybe 50% on the year so far. Maybe I'd have to look that up. I think off the top of my head, I think we've had like 4 attempts to made it and to have missed. So that's definitely a negative that we need to. Am I right on that or?
No, sorry. I was just looking at the score of the Ohio State Notre Dame game, and right now there's 26 seconds left in the second quarter, and Ohio State is up 3-0.
Oh man. Okay, so it's a close game. That's good.
Yeah.
I want that to be a close game. Anyway, yeah. So I think the kicking game is definitely
No,
negative.
you're right. You're right.
No
You're
doubt
right.
about that.
He missed an
yeah.
No, he didn't miss.
I don't think he's missed an extra point. I don't think he's missed
No,
an extra point.
he almost missed an extra point.
Almost.
He hit it, and it went in.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like
he
one of
hit
his
the
first
upright.
ones, didn't it? It was like one of his first ones of the year, wasn't it? Or was it today?
Today.
Oh man.
Today.
Oh, okay.
hit-
I'm the type of
no.
guy that like we score and I'm looking at something else and I've gotten to that point with our extra points finally. So I don't think I saw that.
No, he hit the upright, and it went in.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then he missed a field goal at the end of the half. Could have put us up 10-7.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably could have been 31-14.
Right.
If you're looking at it that way. But we've, as Nebraska fans, the past couple of years, I would love to feel automatic. And it's actually kind of bled into my Eagles fandom, which we have one of the best place kickers in the entire National Football League with Jake Elliott, right?
Right.
So Jake Elliott literally hit a 61-yarder the last week on Thursday night. And every single time he lines up for an extra point or a field goal, my Nebraska fan comes out. I'm like, is he going to make it? And of course he's going to make it. But I'm just like, oh. So I always watch those. I'm always kind of cognizant of the fact that it's not automatic, unfortunately. And again, I think this guy is going to be good. Is he a true freshman or a red?
True freshman. True freshman.
Mm-hmm. So he's playing high school football last year.
Yes.
And he has a good leg.
Yes.
Good leg. So just get the nerves out, because that's what the kick is
his big
about.
claim to fame was like his team went to the state championship and it's played in Memorial Stadium in Nebraska. So his team went to the state championship and he made 5 field goals in the game, including a 45-yard game winner. It was like, and the field goals were not all give me's. It was like 38, 41, 39, 50 something, 45 for the win. And he made all of them 5 for 5 for the game.
But he didn't do that.
He's got ice in his veins. He's got to find that again, you know?
He does. But again, he hasn't done that on the Division I college football level.
100%.
You have to find that mentality, and you have to get past the barrier of, I'm kicking Division I college
100%.
football.
But to me, it's a
kicker.
mental thing. To me, it's a
Absolutely.
mental. At
That's what I'm
kicker,
saying.
it's totally a mental thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you just gotta, because the skills, I would assume, almost directly translate, right? If you've been practicing your techniques correctly and your steps and everything, and maybe it gets back there a little bit faster, and you got to be a little bit faster with it. But for the most part, the skills directly translate. So for Tristan, like I said, he's just got to find that ice in his veins that we know is there.
Yeah.
And he's got to get a little confidence. We're gonna have to make field goals against Michigan. Because our offense, I don't know what our offense is going to do against Michigan's defense as far as being able to move the ball. I think we'll be able to run the ball relatively, but I don't know if we'll be able to score touchdowns on a consistent basis at all, if at all. So we're definitely going to have to take advantage of it every time we are in Michigan territory, and we got to have a kicker who's got a long range with ice in his veins. I mean, he might have to make some 55-yard field goals that day. So, so that's going to be an important thing to get turned around. Okay.
No, absolutely. One thing I did want to say before it changes, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. And here we go. After today, number 1 rushing defense in the NCAA.
1.74 yards per rush against a.
Pretty.
Now we're going to be. Now think about the matchup. No, so now we're going to be playing a team whose identity really is in the run game offensively. I mean, and they're not having a good year rushing wise so far. So we have a defense that can theoretically force JJ McCarthy to pass the ball, and JJ McCarthy is not careful with the ball. He's just not. He had 3 picks against Bowling Green.
Yeah.
So it's just like, we'll see. That's going to be a fun. I will say that's going to be a fun podcast because at the beginning of the year, especially after the first 2 losses of the year, but at the beginning of the year, even when, so my dad or our dad has a, he has a, yeah, he has
No, your dad. I'm adopted, apparently. It just learns right now.
I wouldn't be surprised. We we did that growing up accidentally to Blake all the time. We'd be like, Blake, hey Blake, my dad, blah blah blah. And he's like, it's my dad too. Do you know something I don't? No, but no, our dad has a friend who sometimes calls him during the season and it's like, hey, his friend has season tickets to Husker games, and so he'll call him, and shout out to Jason. He'll call him and you know, he's like, hey, I got tickets available for this game. So shout out to him. And the Michigan game was the one this year, and Dad sort of surprised me with it. And when he surprised me with it, I at first was just like, we're going to the Michigan game, because last year we went to the Oklahoma game. And the year before that, we went to the Ohio State game, and the Ohio State game was fun, but it was an 11 a.m. game. We sort of felt like we were going to lose, even if we had a good showing. And you know what? That's exactly what happened with the Ohio State game. And the Oklahoma game was just demoralizing last year, though. We had just lost our coach. We were hoping to see a good game. That's all we were really hoping for, and that just didn't happen. The game was over mid-first quarter, basically. So I'm looking at that OU game. It was just such a like emotionally taxing trip that I was like, I don't want to go to a blowout ever again.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, matchups wise, I think as people like to say, Michigan plays small ball. That's sort of what they do. They try to hold the ball. They're a classic Big Ten team, and we have a good rushing defense. So I think the matchup lends itself to be, especially at this point, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I really don't. Now that could be a freezing cold take here in 1 week. But I really don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be at the very least, a grinded out sort of blowout, where if they do end up blowing us out, it won't really take shape until the 3rd or 4th quarter.
And that's all I care about.
Sure.
Honestly, because you're right. We've been lucky enough after a couple, like almost 10 years of dormancy,
right,
going to a Husker game basically every year since 2021.
Yeah.
And you've gone to a couple, because you went to the Illinois game.
Oh yeah, I did.
Too. Completely forgot about that one, right?
I forgot.
But yeah, so we've gotten to go to a couple, and you're right. The Ohio State game in 2021.
It was fun. Yeah.
It was fun, and we were very much in that game, and we really could have won if. You know,
it was fun
Ohio
just
State
watching how our defense played against their wide receivers.
How our defense played, and you know, how our offense couldn't get going.
and just to be honest, and just to see in person one of the better wide receiver cores maybe in the history of college football as it'll play out. I mean, you look at who was
Jackson
on that
Smith
team.
And Jigma.
Garrett Wilson was on the team.
Garrett Wilson was.
Marvin Harrison was also on the team. He didn't play yet.
Marvin Harrison was, but there's another guy we're forgetting.
Emeka Egbuka, I think, was on the team, but he didn't play yet. But it's Jackson Smith, Jimba, Garrett Wilson.
He's on the Saints now. Olave.
Oh, Chris Olave. That's the other one. It's like you look at all those dudes. I mean, they have 5 guys. I mean, 3 of them are actually played that year, but they have 5 guys who are in that wide receiver room who are maybe like NFL wide receiver ones at any given organization.
That was crazy.
Like,
crazy. No, it was good seeing that. And then the next game that I went to was that the next game you went to?
Yeah, OU.
OU. Which we had that one drive where up 7-0. Our coach just got fired. Ooh.
The stadium felt electric.
And then that literally. And then we stopped them, and then they stopped us, and then it was never close again.
Yeah, well, we loafed and missed like 12 tackles against Dylan Gabriel on the long run, and everyone collectively sort of knew, like, this is the kind of effort we're going to get today. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
So. Yeah, no, and that was just demoralizing, and that's what we don't want.
Yeah, I don't think Michigan will be that. I don't think Michigan will be that.
We'll talk about it a little bit more come
definitely,
Wednesday.
Definitely.
But for sure. Hoping that the coaching staff and everybody has them ready to play for 4 quarters, have it be a game for 4 quarters, because I'm traveling all the way from Florida. I have a connecting flight. I have to get up at 3 a.m. to come and watch. So definitely hope it's not a waste of my time.
Are you coming on that Friday morning? You have to get up at 3. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying Saturday morning. I was like, y'all are coming in on Saturday.
No, we're flying from Fort Lauderdale, which is an hour and a half away, and our flight's at 6 a.m. So.
Okay, so you have to get up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still in the Louisiana Tech recap podcast right now, though. So let's go ahead and give our one final thought.
Final thought.
Why don't you go ahead and go first?
My one final thought is, I think, even based off of today and everything else, the starting quarterback for next week should be Heinrich Haarberg. Based solely on the fact that he takes care of the ball when he doesn't try to force a play if it's not there. He should have had an interception here or there, but when you throw up a 50-50 ball, that's what happens. Yeah. That happens when you're a quarterback. If that happened with our starting quarterback, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
Right.
There are a couple plays that he makes here and there that we wouldn't be nitpicking this play, that we're watching every single play because there is a quarterback controversy. So you're looking at all those things as a whole, and I think he gives us the better chance to win come next week.
Yeah.
Or better chance to compete come next week.
I agree with that, and I would also add to that I think with how Matt Rule has described how he develops programs and how he plays a lot of younger players early and with all the stuff, there's more upside developmentally to go with Heinrich Haarberg right now, because I don't think we're throwing the year away. We want to make a bowl game. Let's put it that
and we
way.
Can.
But yeah, with Heinrich, we totally can. That's my point. He's a good enough quarterback where he'll get you to where you want it to be at the end of this year. And then next year, you got a guy who just made 11 starts or whatever, and he's coming back, and he's got 2 or 3 more years of eligibility. I mean, this is his first year of true eligibility that he's going to be burning, I believe. So,
and then you have your first guy that you've recruited coming in with Caitlin,
right?
And he gets to learn under a guy that is gritty. He's a competitor. The guys rally around him. He's been in the program 3 years. Right. So he was there for 2021, 2022, and this year.
Right.
So all of those guys know him. They rally around him. The offense plays a little bit better around him. They have a little bit more fire, even if it's not. There's play calling here and there that it's questionable, and that is another discussion that we will bring up on the next pod. But I just think that to give the team the best chance, if you want to give Jeff Sims, give him a package here and there where he's under center, give him an option package.
Yeah,
where he doesn't where he doesn't have a chance to pass it or anything like that. Or fumble a shotgun snap, just give him a chance because he is good at running the ball. But I think Heinrich Haarberg is Yossi Hardrick, yeah, the Fourth Reich. I think that he's shown me enough right now where he can be a game manager, and that I trust him back there. So
yeah, I agree with that. Off the topic of quarterbacks, my final thought for the game is that overall, getting a win in a game like this when you didn't play your best game on pretty much any phase, special teams, defense, or offense, you didn't play your best game.
Yeah.
But you still grinded out and got a tough, sort of gritty win at the end of the day. And you said something midway through the game that was like this game sort of reminds you of the Buffalo game from 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I agree with that because there was a number of touchdowns that should not have been called back, that were called back, that could have really opened the game up for Nebraska and made it look as it felt. And that Louisiana Tech team just kept hanging in there, and slowly just kind of sticking around, which is sort of what we all feared. But at the end of the day, they grinded it out. They had 315 yards rushing. They did exactly what a Big Ten West team does, which is not look so pretty, but hold the ball for like 3/4 of the game and, and just win on the scoreboard, which is at the end of the day is an important thing. So my one final thought is, wrapped up with all this, if I were to wrap it up in a headline, would be, looks like Nebraska is becoming a Big Ten West team, finally.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Good one final thought, because you're completely and utterly right. There is something about this team that does feel different. You're watching them. They don't play with a sense of desperation.
No, agreed.
Even when they were losing, they weren't playing with a sense of desperation. The loss at Minnesota, they weren't playing like they were going to lose. They were playing like they were going to win. And minus the AG fumble or the interception that could have been, and we could be 3-1 right now.
Yes,
because there's nothing good about the Colorado game on offense. There was nothing good. I'm not even going to say, it's closer than it looked.
To be fair, fans. If you watch that game, though, to be fair, the first half literally went like this, like, Nebraska's dominating. Looks like they're going to, Nebraska's dominating. Looks like they're going to, 4 times, repeated 4 times. That's what the first half looked like.
No, you're right. If
there is an element of that there, too, as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I'm like, Colorado just got their asses handed to them.
I love
because
that.
they actually finally played a real complete team.
That one video I sent you is so funny, man. It's so funny.
Let's not talk about it. But no, I don't want to be, because Nebraska fans aren't those type of fans. Like, it's closer than it should have been. No. So we really could have been 3-1. Give me my theme music. Who do they play next week? Their college game
USC.
day is next week, and oh my gosh, they
USC.
get 2 ass whoopings in a row. Now USC's defense is not as good as Oregon's.
It's athletic enough to stop them. It's athletic enough to stop them enough. That's my theory. They might score 14, 21 points, but USC
Colorado
will score 56, 62.
Yeah, and Colorado fans might say, like, well, Travis Hunter isn't in. So okay, one guy. He's not been nearly as dominant.
And he's not his position is not their central issue. Their central issue is their interior. Their trenches. And that showed itself today, because you don't dominate like Oregon dominated today without winning the lines of scrimmage. And Oregon dominated the lines of scrimmage today. Now, did Colorado look like the best tackling team? No, but we knew that. And would Travis Hunter help with that aspect of it? With a play here and there, but it's not going to make a huge change in the game like that.
You're right. Right.
But
I also do like former Husker Casey Rogers on 4th and 4 from their own 20-yard line, getting that fake punt for a 20-yard gain. Oh, that was just great.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was
you
awesome.
just want to root for him,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I actually talked to Greg today, who's been on the show, former guest Greg, and to his credit, he texted me this morning and was like, just for the record, I think Colorado is going to get killed today. and as soon as I looked at the scoreboard and saw they were getting killed, I texted him. I was like, dang, look good on you for reaching out to me and saying that, because now I can't give you crap. Like, you admitted it. Yeah. But he did say, one of the things he said was like, well, it's, Travis Hunter's out. That doesn't help. And I was like, yeah, again, man, like, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Game. Yeah, maybe he accounts for like another touchdown, maybe. You know what I mean? He is a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the best players in America, but like, he's not going to account for 35 points. He's not going to account for 35 points.
No.
Yeah.
But
so
all right. So that being said, we're gonna be back here, live streaming Wednesday, 7 Eastern.
yes, Wednesday 7 Eastern for 7:30. I mean
7:30.
Yeah, depending on my work schedule and how that ends up playing out. But yeah, 7:30.
Yeah,
Eastern.
7:30. Remember that you can catch us on anywhere you can get audio podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anything like that. YouTube is Cornhusker Corner. Just look us up. We have some splits here and there, or the full thing. You can follow us on Twitter or X at @CHusker_corner, and on Instagram Cornhusker Corner.
Like the video, and subscribe to
video.
the channel. Like that video. We appreciate it if you like it. We appreciate it if you subscribe. We appreciate it if you just are perusing right now and are not sure really what you want to do, but you're checking out our channel just peripherally. We like that too.
Yeah.
But just interact with us, ask us questions, let us know what you want to see on the channel, and we'll try to satisfy your needs.
Yeah, we'll try to satisfy you. Just leave us a review and we'll satisfy you.
Yes.
But always remember that there's no place like
this podcast.